your thoughts, memories, first things that kind of come to your head when Kobe Bryant's name's mentioned, and obviously with all the reflection this week after the terrible news on Sunday.
Yeah, a very, very complex personality, man, on the court and off. A man with many faces, many abilities, far-reaching interests. Not your typical NBA player, multilingual. Spent part of his childhood growing up in Italy because his dad was playing ball over in Europe. He just brought a whole different background to the league than so many kids did. And so it's not too surprising that he was different and complex. But one of the most extraordinary athletes I've ever seen, one of the great competitors I've ever seen. He was a vicious competitor. I had a interviewer ask yesterday, did you enjoy watching him play? And I said never, because he was always rubbing our nose in it, and he took great glee in beating the other team from LA, and he had a sense of arrogance about him, which is a part of his greatness as a player, but it did not endear him to his opponents, believe me. But he was special, and I believe at the age of 41 that his best years of contribution to life and society were ahead of him rather than behind him.
You obviously were with the Clippers when Kobe comes into the league as a 17, 18-year-old and got to be the crosstown team and watch his career alongside your career. What are some of the things that stand out for you? You've touched on obviously the vicious competitor and things, but are there, what stands out about his basketball legacy to you and getting to watch him grow up from a kid to a man?
It'd be different than most people because he was twice coulda, shoulda, would have been a Clipper. When he came out of high school, the Clippers had, I think, the 7th or 8th pick in the draft that year. Bill Fitch was our coach. Elgin Baylor was our general manager, and both of them Hall of Famers. And they brought Kobe in for a workout, which you do before you draft. You work players out and interview them and take them out to dinner and get an idea of who they are and so on. And I was not at the workout. It was a closed workout, but both Elgin and Coach Fitch said it was the best basketball workout they'd ever seen, ever. And Elgin and some of the members of Fitch's coaching staff said, we got to draft him. We got to draft him. I mean, he was 17 going on 18. And Fitch, who was really kind of the big personality and the decision maker of the group, said, no, he's too young. And so they drafted a guy named Lorenzen Wright, who was 19, who had a totally forgettable NBA career. And the Lakers, he fell to Charlotte at number 13, I think. The Lakers traded Vlade Divac, their center, and they brought in Kobe and they brought in Shaq O'Neal, and the rest, of course, led to a series of championships and great runs. But I always thought then, boy, how great it would have been. We had young Brent Barry as a rising young star in the backcourt, and he and Kobe would have been spectacular and colorful and exciting together. But then, in 2004, the Lakers had just flamed out in the finals to Detroit, year that they brought in Gary Payton and they brought in Karl Malone, and they had him with Shaq and Kobe and thought we're going to dominate the world forevermore. And it didn't happen, and Malone was hurt, and they limped to the finish line and lost rather feebly to the Detroit Pistons at the time, and the team was they were disheveled and didn't know where to go, what to do, and Kobe was becoming a free agent that summer, and he was really unhappy, and he and Shaq were at loggerheads, and they just didn't like each other, didn't like playing with each other. They both thought that they were the number one, and nobody there wanted to be number two. And so Kobe started making the rounds to be a free agent. And he interviewed with our group, and they had down in Newport Beach, what was then a Four Seasons hotel, in a fancy suite. The owner, Donald Sterling, Elgin Baylor, Andy Rose, the team president, Mike Dunleavy, the coach, a guy named the attorney for the team, were all there. They meet with Kobe, and he says, "This is perfect. This is what I want." And the owner, Donald Sterling, who never could believe anything good was ever going to happen in basketball, walks him to the door and says, "I'm just really worried about this." And Kobe looked him right square in the eye and said, "Don't worry, I'm a Clipper," and walked out the door. And they're high-fiving and going, "Oh, why? We got him. Well, at the time, this is a long story. I'm sorry, Eric.
It's okay. No, it's fascinating for me.
But Jerry Buss, the owner of the team, is in Europe on vacation, having a great time. And so Mitch Kupchak, who was the general manager at the time, calls Jerry and says, "Doctor, we're gonna lose Kobe to the Clippers of all people, which would be the worst possible scenario."
Outcome,
yeah.
Right.
And Buss says, let me talk to him. So they arrange a phone call, Buss and Kobe, and Kobe made it abundantly clear that he's leaving because he just didn't want to share the mantle with Shaq anymore. And Buss said, "Well, if he were gone, would you stay?" The next day, Shaq was traded to Miami for Lamar Odom and whatever else they got, and Kobe signed a long-term contract. But I mean, it was a done deal. And but Dr. Buss was a great owner, and he exercised his ownership rights, and his persuasive powers prevailed.
No, I had not heard the ins and outs of that.
A lot of folks haven't.
Over those years, is there any plays or games that stand out in your mind, or performances of Kobe's?
Well, not so much the games. I've seen so many games; they all just kind of blend together. But it was an unusual relationship because the Clippers and Lakers played in the same building. Different courts, different baskets, different coloration in the arena, but. So when you were the visiting team, you would walk in the visiting entrance to the court rather than the home entrance to the court. And so when there was a Clipper home game, Clippers would walk in this one corner entrance to the court to come out for pregame warm-ups or whatever. And I'm walking back towards the locker room before one game, and Kobe is walking out the home team's entrance, and like one of the ushers says, "Kobe's other end is supposed to go." And he says, "This is my house." And that just is kind of characterizes who he is. I mean, that's just the way he was, I'm sorry to say. But that's a part of the arrogance and the confidence, and he was just an extraordinary competitive human being. And so whatever he does had planned in the future, it was going to be remarkably successful. He won an Oscar, for crying out loud.
Me as a fan watching from afar, don't know Kobe. I've never met him, but watched, and I saw the arrogance, the cockiness growing up. He rubbed some people the wrong way. And then I saw this transformation in the twilight of his playing career. He's on his farewell tour, he's got the smile, and now post-retirement, getting to see him with his daughters at games, and he just had this look of, I love this new Kobe. He seemed more accessible, more at peace with life, and I think that's what really affected me. What did you see? Because obviously you were there to see the end of his career and have been watching from afar as well, like the rest of the world.
And I think that the joys of being a good husband, being a good father, caught up with him, and that's a good thing. And that is not the Kobe that we all knew during his playing career, where he was just enraged always about winning and competing and being excellent and being the best at everything. But if he found that sense of normalcy in his life, I think that he would have loved his next 40 more than his last 40.
Over the last couple days, obviously you've been talking with people around the league and colleagues. What is the sense that you're getting from everyone else? Is it just shock?
It's even more than shock. I think back to the Kennedy assassination. It's that kind of a thing. It just can't be true, because JFK was a bigger than life personality as president of our country, and Kobe was clearly bigger than life. I mean, he was 6'6", but he was, 100 feet tall in the eyes of everybody. He was just, he was not a mortal. He was this amazing personality who was bigger than anything that any of us can even imagine being. And I think it's just gone like that. It's gone. It's more than losing a friend. It's more than losing a teammate. You're losing. It's a legend, and we all kind of like our legends, and you don't like to see them be that mortal. It's really been tough to accept.
Mm-hmm.